Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish Podcast. On today's episode, we've got Tom back in the studio, and we are talking about some fun partnerships that we've got with the YouVersion Bible app. You'll hear a little bit about how it came about, some of the plans that we're doing to help people grow spiritually, and even a fun event that we got to attend as content partners. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hey, Tom, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Melissa. Always good to have time with you. It seems like we usually just get to talk on podcasts, but
I know that's what happens since I'm not on site, or on campus at all, but it works out great. It makes sure we get to talk at least once a month, which works out nicely.
Yes, absolutely. That's probably all you can handle talking to me, I'm sure. So anyway.
Well, I mean, you're a busy guy. You got enough going on. We don't need to take too much of your time to do this. But I will say, I felt like I was on campus this weekend because it was very snowy here. I did watch Mass at Nativity instead of my own parish. Don't tell my people that. But it was really nice because I felt like a part of the Nativity community.
I mean, we figured we'd probably have people doing that. My sister texted me the same thing. So you were not alone.
That's what I think makes it fun, too. So we all felt like we were part of Nativity this weekend, which worked out nicely.
Yeah, that's great.
Tom, we've had some really cool things happening at Rebuilt lately. And we thought this would be a great conversation to kind of share some of that. And I'd love to hear from your perspective, too. Like, when you take a look at what God's been doing through Rebuilt lately, what's maybe surprised you the most about like which doors that God is opening and the reach that's followed?
It's funny you ask that because things are never moving fast enough for me, Melissa.
I know, well, of course not.
And, there's always like more and the frustration. But I think it's been great. I really enjoyed, on these podcasts, getting to some of the guests we've been having on and really having those conversations. And, obviously as part of Rebuilt, we want to be part of this, the larger movement that God is making happen in our generation and be connected to the other organizations and movements that are making that happen and the leaders there. So that's been fun. And among them, we got to go to with David Shawn and reconnecting back with him and the YouVersion, all that. So yeah, those are very fun conversations. And there's sort of the fun things that make all the nitty gritty hard work often at times.
Yes.
Or there are joys in the midst of that, because the nitty gritty is also important, and there can be joy in that, but it can just be fun connecting with some of these leaders.
It is fun, especially to connect with people like David Shawn and that team at YouVersion, who they're just making such a global impact, which is really cool. And let's talk about that a little bit. Like, we never planned. This was something that, Chrissy and I had talked about years ago when we first started. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we got Rebuilt on the Bible app? Because both of us love the Bible app. But it didn't, like, that partnership didn't really start out right away. So do you want to share with everyone kind of how that came about and what happened there?
Yeah, and I will in a second. And, I think on a larger leadership thing, or I don't know, and there's some things God opens doors and God makes them happen, but then there's some things you have to make happen and God's waiting for you. And I don't know, it's a little bit the overall reflection I've had. What part is me and what part is God? And I think our whole spiritual life and everything. And on one level, it's all God, right? All is grace, but yet God calls us forward to effort. So one of the passages of scripture that's really big for me is Exodus. I think it's Exodus 14:15. It's Exodus 14 when Moses, it's when the Israelites are out and after they've left Egypt, but before they've crossed the Red Sea, and the Israelites have the Egyptian army breathing down their neck, and they have the Red Sea in front of them. And Moses says, just stand firm and you'll see God move. And then God says to Moses, what are you doing just standing there? Move forward. And that the Red Sea parts. So I say all that is I think that's a constant tension for us as church leaders and conversation to have with God about, okay, God, where is it that you're going to open it? You're going to open the sea, but I got to keep moving forward. And so to go back to the David Shawn, so it's a long-winded way, but it was kind of funny that David Shawn was just a good friend we had made at Saddleback. Now that was something that was a door that opened that we never did. We went out to an event. Rick Warren was there. We got to meet him. We had never met Rick before that. It was after the book was written, which is a little bit different from the podcast, but I'll just keep moving on. How Rick remembered it. But, we became really good friends with David Shawn, and then David left, and he would come out to our events. He came to our conference. He came to the opening of the brand new sanctuary, just really good friend. But then he left Saddleback. There was a change of leadership and just had lost touch with him. And so this last summer, it just happened. Father Michael and I were talking, and he's like, David's name came up. And so I'm like, I'll text him, see how he's doing. And he tells us he's at YouVersion. We get him on the podcast. You are smart enough and wise enough to say afterwards, hey, David, how do we get on YouVersion, right? You ask him that question. So all just a little bit, I guess, of saying sometimes we just got to keep on knocking on doors and they will open. And sometimes they just open for you. I guess that's a long-winded way of answering that question.
It's so good. A couple weeks ago, I texted you the picture of a book that I'm reading right now, and it's Mark Batterson. And in there, he's talking about Exodus in the book too. And one of the quotes in there that he says is, when you move, God moves. And I don't know if I'm dating myself here as a millennial, but every time I read that sentence, I get this song stuck in my head, and it's like, when you move, I move. And that's certainly not God. That's actually Ludacris who says that. But every time I read that, I think about that. And it's really true, Tom, because we have to make a move in faith. We have to be obedient to move. And then when we move, God moves too.
I do think, and again, and there's truth to it, but there are people sometimes in the church that just think it's all spiritual and we just pray and everything will just work itself out. And that's, again, the place for prayer is definitely there, right? Praise if it depends upon God, work as it depends upon you.
Yes.
But God tends to say, I want you to move first. God's already done a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like he's already, even if you think about that Exodus story, he'd already sent 10 plagues.
Right.
He had already given the whole plan to Moses. He had called Moses. God had already done a ton of things. It was now the movement time. Okay, you need to move forward now. I'm not doing anything more. And that is often the way it is with God. And it's not because he hasn't already done some of these things. It just feels like I got to make a move. Well, God's like, I've already made a lot of moves. Now it's your time to make the move. So, and I have to read that book. I know you texted me that. And I haven't read it yet. The Mark Batterson book. I'm looking forward to it. I have to get it and read it.
I think you'll love that one. I mean, you already quoted Mark Batterson in this conversation. We're 7 minutes in here, so I think you are going to love it. So it's called Gradually Then Suddenly for those who are listening. And Tom, I think especially for you, and you've shared this already. You like everything to happen super fast. Like you're like, oh, we're behind. If we haven't done this already, we're behind. But it's a great reminder that if you're building something, it's brick by brick. It's not going to go up immediately. And Mark Batterson just does a beautiful job tying it all into scripture and explaining it. And he uses different examples too. Like he uses Disney as an example. And then, just some other spiritual stories in there. But I think it's one that you'll love. And we'll have to put a link for it in the show notes, because I think all of our listeners, if they like Rebuilt, they're going to like this book too.
Yeah. And I think I think the idea of that holy discontent, that being frustrated, not, no good being frustrated. Like, I don't think God wants us frustrated. So I think we can bring that over to God. But if you're trying to build up your parish or build up your ministry and it's not going as fast as you want, I think that's okay. I think that's good. I think that's a holy discontent. Now, yeah, we don't want to let that wear us out and burn us out and make us quit because it's not moving as fast. Like there's a bunch of negative things. But I think usually if you're a leader, God put that in there and put it in you. And again, and understand you could take it out on your teammates in the wrong way. So there's always, you got to handle it right. But I think sometimes people will be like, well, get rid of that. No, don't get rid of that. That's good. That's a good, it's again, a holy discontent's the best way I've heard it put. And that's good.
I think that's good. And I think we also learn a lot during that time too. God's not going to give us everything right away. We do have to work for it. And he's got lessons for us built all along that windy path. So when we finally get there, we can look back and we're not going to say that was easy, but we're going to say that was worth it.
Yeah, and I do think, and I don't always handle this right. But those challenges are God's building something into us. It's interesting. Hopefully I don't get in trouble at home for this. My son, Gus, has been away at school and he's trying to figure out the public transportation. And for him, it feels like insurmountable. Mm-hmm. And as someone who's never had to do it, he's gotten rides, and that's probably our fault as parents, but somewhat, it's just the world we're in now. But I remember having to figure out the public transportation to take an internship in college and the bus and figuring out, again, and it seems insurmountable, but I'm like, no, he'll be able to do it. You'll be able to figure it out. You just need that encouragement. But I know, like, as he does that, it's also building a new skill and figuring a problem out. So, it's sort of a little bit the obstacle is the way, as they kind of say. I think, there's a book out there like that in the obstacles, God is doing something and training us up. And so, again, easier always to say on the other side of something than it is in the middle, because I know I can get on myself. Why can't I figure this out? I'm such an idiot. I can't figure this out. There, must be something wrong with me. It's like, no, God's doing something in those.
Right. And to your point, God doesn't want us to feel that way either. We just have to be open to the lessons that we're learning along the way.
Yeah. If you're cursing yourself or criticizing yourself, that's probably not the voice of God in there.
Right. Right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that relationship with David Sean and kind of where that led us. So we had this awesome podcast interview. He said he helped us become content partners with YouVersion. So do you want to share, first of all, a little bit about what YouVersion is, what the Bible app is, and we can talk a little bit about our impact we're having there and what we're doing?
I'll share a little bit, but you're more knowledgeable than I am. But the YouVersion is obviously it is a Bible app that Bobby Greenwald at Life Church came up with, and it's kind of an interesting story about how it was sort of a failure at first, actually, the original idea, and then they were blessed to be out right when the App Store first opened up, and this idea of apps, which actually, if you even read about Steve Jobs, he had no vision. The vision of the smartphone is far beyond the reason he created to begin with. Another story. But yeah, so YouVersion, they changed this other original idea into an app, and it explodes. And so, yeah, it's simply the Bible on your phone, but then there's all these different plans to try to, in ways, the Bible's a big book. So you just go read the Bible. It's trying to give people plans on how to go read the Bible, from 5-day plans to 90-day plans to read the Bible in a year plan. So I don't know what else you want to add to that, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Maria Politano from Rebuilt Parish. If you're longing to see real renewal in your parish, but you're not sure where to begin, you don't have to walk that path alone. Through Rebuilt Coaching, your parish is paired with 2 dedicated partner coaches who walk alongside you, encourage you, and help you to stay focused on what matters most, making disciples and strengthening your parish culture. We guide you through the Rebuilt anchors with a clear course and coaching rhythm that gives you structure, support, and practical steps you can take right away. If you're ready for clarity, direction, and a team committed to your parish's growth, learn more about Rebuilt Coaching at rebuiltparish.com/coaching.
Yeah. So I'll share. It's something that you can use to deepen your faith. It's free, which is what I appreciate about it, that it doesn't cost anything to dive in deeper into your faith. This app has reached 1 billion downloads, which is very exciting. So the reach is all over the world, which is so cool. And one of my favorite things, well, gosh, Tom, I mean, we know I've got so many favorite things about the app, and I can talk about this forever because it's played a big part in my faith journey. But I love that you can build a daily streak. So it kind of keeps track of how many days you've been in the Bible app. But then also it explains the word, like there's a scripture of the day, and there's a short video where somebody somebody explains the scripture or tells a story or helps you dive deeper. But then also these plans that you were talking about. This is what I love, is where you can read a plan either on your own, and it's a daily devotional that breaks it out day by day, and it gives you scripture. But if you do this with others, you can comment on them as well. So it's really cool to be able to read these plans with other people and see what God is sharing with them through it. So when we talked to David Sean about that, we had asked him, okay, how can we get a plan on there? Now we've got multiple plans on the Bible app that we'll link to all of them in the show notes. But the really fun thing is we're having a global reach already, and we've only been on it for a few months. We've had almost 20,000 downloads so far on our plans, and we're in 150 different countries, which is just wild to me, Tom. These message series that you and the team have written are now literally all over the globe.
Yeah, that's very fun. That's very fun, very cool. And, again, I think it goes back. We all want to have impact. We all want to have great impact, and to know you're impacting people you don't know and won't see is awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think it's another lesson to our parishes too, as they're writing their message series, as they're creating content, that you can repurpose these and you can use what you've already done and turn it into another project to make even more impact. So, I mean, you impact thousands of people at Nativity, and now the cool thing is through these, they're getting these messages to them every day and all over the world. I think it feels pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think it's a great point. I think that God, if you are preaching or creating content in a parish, God wants to say something through you, and you never know how God's going to use you to get that out, to not only impact your parish. And in a parish, our communication is forming the parish. It is forming a community it's usually very local in that target, but God can take that and use it however he wants.
Definitely. One of the cool things is too, our parishes, so anybody listening, you can take our plans or other plans and you can use them in your own parish. So these plans that we've created, again, we'll link to them, but you can encourage your parishioners to do these along with the message series that goes with it. So if you are a subscriber of ours and you get our content, you can use that right along with it. So Rebuilt Faith is in there, and you can, if you're doing Rebuilt Faith in your parish, for example, you can encourage your parishioners to download the Bible app and to follow along with Rebuilt Faith. And they can even be in that app with their small group and all be commenting at the same time. So they can now connect daily instead of just their once a week meeting.
What other series are in the app, Melissa?
So we just uploaded Baggage, will be out in February. That's one of them. We are working on Heal, so that'll be out for Lent, which is exciting because that's one that we know a lot of our parishes are doing Heal for Lent. We also have, oh my goodness. Oh, this one is one of my favorite, Breathing Room. And this one is just a 5-day. I say just a 5-day. It's a 5-day plan, but this one has been so impactful. This is one that anytime somebody says to me, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm struggling, I say, do you use the Bible app? Let's read this plan together. And Tom, I'm reading this with a group of women at the gym right now. And it's just a really fun way to see what their faith life is like and connect with them on a level that I never would have known when we were, just doing push-ups together at the gym. So it's just a really great way to connect with people too. And then we did an Advent series too. I'm trying to remember which one that was. I probably should have.
Grace and Truth.
Grace and Truth. Thank you. And Grace and Truth just took off when people were, they were so excited to see that plan. And that was one that did really well. We had thousands and thousands of people that did Grace and Truth.
I think it's interesting. Well, and you did pretty well there, Melissa, off the top of your head. You know what I'm saying? I think on the one, Baggage, that's on forgiveness. And I think that's one of the things, and I've heard other churches say this too, we probably need to come back to it again at Nativity. You can do over and over again, right? On forgiveness and our need that's so central to the gospel and so central to to our faith, and yet it's not always easy to do. So it's simple, but not easy. So really, that would be a really good one to check out, as all the other ones. But I just, as you were talking about that, I was thinking there's always a need to revisit forgiveness.
Definitely. I remember talking to Father Scott, my pastor, and, as we were planning what we were going to do for Lent each year, he would say, there's multiple things that people always ask me about, and forgiveness is one of the top 5 things that he hears on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's So keep that in mind for that series on the app, but also, something to be talking about, teaching your parishioners about.
So Tom, I think it'd be really fun to share with everyone a little bit about that Beyond a Billion celebration that we got to go to when we went to go. So the YouVersion team, Bobby was there and spoke a couple of times, but David invited us to this celebration where it was this incredible experience of praise and worship and speakers. Will you share maybe what stood out to you the most in that celebration?
The evening celebration.
The evening celebration.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it was pretty cool, the breadth of people they brought together. To me, the moment that actually I enjoyed the most, though, or at least that hit me the most, was when Chris Tomlin came out. And there's kind of all these big things, but then he just came out with an acoustic guitar and kind of singing. And I think correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Well, I guess no one's gonna be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things he sang, "How Great Is Our God," and that's been a theme for me, like from the beginning. I think that album "Arriving" came out like late '90s, early 2000s somewhere, and it's always just for me been a vision of what people see. That I've. I remember asking Al Walsh if we had small group leadership gatherings or trying to paint a vision for the parish. I would want him to play that. And it's great, just acoustic, you can play it, but it's been the vision for me. When I think about who we're trying to reach, a lot of times I try to think about reaching my friends from high school who still go to church, have always gone to church, most of them, maybe off and on. My friends from college, many who never went to church. But that's like the hope I've always thought, is like that they will see how great is our God, that, a lot of the faith and religion they got was of this syrupy or like weak Jesus. And that's, not who he is, to really see the person and how great and how powerful Jesus is and how good, strong, And so anyway, so for me, for many years, that's been the song that's always been kind of the vision of why we do what we do and who we want to reach. And so to be in that moment, there's a lot of like loud stuff and all these things, but to kind of quiet down right into that acoustic of all will see how great is our God. That's why we're all here. That was for me the moment. How about you?
Oh, I did not know that song had that significance for you. That was definitely one of the songs. I mean, Julia and I cried through most of the event because it was just so moving. I'm really glad you weren't sitting with us, because you would have looked at us and be like, "Come on, guys, keep it together." But it really just was such a moving event. Looking around, and we filled the Paycom Arena with worship, and I have never worshiped in person with that many people before. It was over 8,000 of us. I mean, what a really just incredible experience. And every time somebody new came out on stage, because, they didn't tell us ahead of time who all was going to be there, Julia and I would just like shake each other and just get really excited. Gosh, I don't even think there was one. I think it was just collectively the whole thing. The time I think I had the most emotion when it was with, they played the video and then the mom came out. It was a video of the mom who was from Baltimore. And
that stuck with me for sure when I heard that. Yeah.
That right there. And they had her story in the app like the week before. And so I was like, why does this sound familiar? But like hearing her talk, seeing the difference that the Bible app made in her life and her son's life. And it was just like the tears kept coming down, and I just kept thinking, this is why we're doing this. Like, this is why we are creating plans and putting them on the app so that it can make a difference in people's lives. then of course, all of the music and getting to hear getting to hear like Dallas Jenkins talk was cool. Getting to hear Bobby share his story was really cool. Getting to hear, I think now you're getting me going here, Tom. Getting to hear Craig like share about why the app is free and showing his like the tiny New Testament that he had that he was given for free. And that is kind of like what had sparked like this will always be free. That was just moving the whole thing. I mean, just what an experience.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good point. You never know. Recently reading the parable of the sower, and it's both an encouraging and discouraging parable. If you think it's discouraging in that 3 of the 4 seeds fall on ground that produces no fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus, and it's really clear. Jesus is the sower. The seed is the word of God, right? But then he also calls us to be sowers. And so you preaching and teaching, it's saying, hey, 3/4 of your audience it's just not even going to. It's either going to be they might hear it and like it, or one might not even get through, right? They might hear it and like it, and then they get choked, or I'm trying to remember the third. What's the third I'm missing? But anyway. 3 and 4 aren't going to work, but 1 will, and then that will produce fruit 100-fold. So even just that Bible, how many Bibles did that guy give out?
Right.
But it produced fruit in Craig, who's built up this whole organization and impacted all these other people. So that's the more encouraging part that I think sometimes as a church, maybe we have we overestimate what we should expect as far as results, right? That, so even when we give our best efforts, the results, Jesus saying, it's not going to be on the one hand, on the front end. Yeah, only about 25% of people might really get that message or might understand it. But the back end though is on that 25%, they will produce 100-fold results, 60-fold, 80-fold, 100-fold. So good reminder to us to keep sowing the seeds, right? And we want to get better at it and more effective at it. But don't quit sowing.
When leadership is healthy, mission moves forward. When it's unclear or disconnected, everything stalls. That's why we created the Rebuilt Leadership Self-Evaluation, a simple, powerful tool to help your parish pause, reflect, and realign around what matters most. Inside, you'll walk through core questions about your mission, the clarity of your team, and the metrics you use to know whether you're actually accomplishing the work God entrusted to you. You'll name what's working, identify the gaps, and begin shaping practical next steps. Quick wins, long-term priorities, and the big rocks that will strengthen your parish leadership from the inside out. If you're ready for more focus, healthier teams, and leadership rooted in mission, download the Leadership Self-Evaluation today at rebuiltparish.com/leadership evaluation. For sure. I mean, when I think about that man who just must have handed out so many Bibles, that the fact that he gave that to Craig and then the way that changed his life and now all of the lives that he's changing through that. So I think about who's sitting at Mass and you don't even know. You don't know what kind of impact you're having on them. And it might not be tomorrow. It might be years and years down the line that impact happens. But I just think it's so inspiring.
It was hysterical too. They're like, I'm sure you don't know who that was. They're like, no, we know exactly who it is. That's pretty funny. They knew who exactly it was, like many years ago. So
I mean, he went back to the organization and said, can you tell me who was on this campus this year handing them out? And the fact that they could pinpoint that and he got to meet the guy again and talk to him and share. I mean, think about that, Tom. If somebody comes to you 20 years from now and says, Tom, you changed my life. This is what I've done, and built something, I don't know, like with like 1 billion downloads of people reading the Bible. I mean, how would you feel? Like, that you're going to get a well done, good and faithful servant, you know?
No, it's good. And it doesn't even, it doesn't even have to be that big. It's just even knowing somebody was in youth ministry and they're 20 years later, 25 years later, they're still into their faith. Or there was Anthony Rossi, who's a guy who was in the youth ministry when I came here, and he was serving as a coach here. Like, that's just, for a while, and that's really cool. So yeah. That's
awesome. Let's talk a little bit about that we got to go meet some people after that event. There was a VIP after party. And Tom, you're super social, so let's. We were in a room, and not a huge room either. We were in a room with some well-known Christian artists and some trailblazers. So I want to know who did you talk to, and who do you wish you talked to, looking back?
Yeah, I'm not really great in those environments. I'm too much an introvert to just go up to people, and I don't. So it was funny seeing Julie all excited too. And also I've been to these things for a while now. So there's a little bit less of it's cool connecting with people, and I do want to connect. There's, So anyway, it was fun. Like Phil Wickham was there, and I didn't actually know all the people. You and Julia knew more. The person, and I'm trying to have conversations with now, is Carrie Niehoff. I think Carrie's, and I haven't met Carrie before. I don't think he doesn't know who I am. In fact, I'll share another story about that at some point. But I really admire what Carrie's podcast. I would say after our podcast, the Carrie Niehoff Leadership Podcast would be the second one I would promote, and it's the one I listen to. He's a really great at bringing on guests, bringing on a wide variety of people. I hear other people interview, and just how well he does it is just amazes me, and kind of brings out knowing both to ask questions, but bring his own insights and thoughts at times. So Carrie, that was the one person I was trying to connect with, and now still trying to a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get him on the podcast here, but
well, I was excited that you managed to capture his attention and say hi, so we could all at least say hi to him too. When I was working in the parish, I listened to his podcast every single week. Now, I'm not in the parish anymore. I don't listen to it as much. I think it's been a few months since I've listened to one of his episodes, but that was exciting for me too, to get to meet him. He was somebody that I was hoping to meet. I kind of wished, honestly, I wish I had talk to Phil Wickham or Dallas Jenkins. So Tom, David Sean kept telling us, go mingle, go talk to people, spread out, and also it was almost midnight, and, I go to bed super early. So to be up that late for me, I was like, whew, I am drained, but okay, let me, put on my social hat. But Julie and I were talking to these college kids from Oral Roberts who drove in just for the event, and they were somehow at this VIP after party, and we're talking, and, we're like, oh, wow, look who's over there. It was Dallas Jenkins, and I was like, oh, but I'm not going to go over there. And this 20-year-old kid is like, why not? They're just people. We're going to go talk to everybody. And I'm like, man, to have that kind of courage, and to just think, they are just people. They are just people. And when you do something well, people, it probably is nice to hear when people like what you're doing.
It's funny. I remember, and this was a podcast or maybe a webinar I was watching, and it was an artist, I'm trying to remember, from North Point, but he was talking about how when he was talking to Charles Stanley, so famous Baptist preacher, father to Andy Stanley, but he just said, how do you respond when someone comes up to a message you've given and says, and goes on and how great it was, and Charles Stanley says, I say thank you. Don't give, just everybody needs to be affirmed, right? Wants to hear good things. So that's good, so making a difference, and everybody wants to hear that. And, it's interesting. I have a little bit of that perspective, much smaller scale than anybody in that room, but of people coming up who I don't know, and they're trying to, and it's always, as somebody that comes up to it, you're trying to listen to what they need, and you do want to give because sometimes people could be coming asking for advice, or sometimes people you've impacted their lives, and they just want to come say thank you in some way, and they're a little nervous, and they're a little bit unsure, again, how you would be in that room, how I would be in that room. And so, again, the good, they're trying to figure out, okay, again, assuming they're good quality, good character person, they're trying to figure out, how do I make this person feel good? And, it's a skill and it's something to learn, but, and then, there's still on our part, if you do see somebody that you've admired from afar. You want to do it well, and you want to do it respectfully, and not like a dork, and all these kind of things. So, the other person I was hoping would come through, and I knew he wouldn't, because he's exactly like you, is Craig Rochelle, who we did get to do. I did get to meet in 2017. It was actually ironic, because I was realizing it was about that same time in November that we had gone out there to interview Craig for our 2018 conference, and we showed a video interview. And I was curious if he was going to walk through and try to see if he remembered it, but that didn't. I pretty much thought, yeah, he's in bed by now, because this is past his bedtime, like yours, Melissa.
Yeah. I was hoping we'd have gotten to see him. Bobby was there. He had gotten there right after you left. And I had gone over to go say hi, and then he got pulled away by an assistant to go do something. But I can imagine just how tired they all had to have been from speaking at multiple events all week long, because it was a big month with Global Bible Month.
Well, that goes back a little bit to people's personalities. Some people would need that, would love to have that point, and some people would just need to go home and be done. So it kind of depends on your personality a little bit.
For sure. Well, Tom, as we look ahead, how do you hope Rebuilt continues to kind of steward that trust and influence and build on these relationships that God's placed in front of us without, losing our pastoral heart?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, and I think our heart are for parishes and parish leaders. And so, partly we also, again, continue working in a parish. It's good to, just be here on a Sunday and when it's not snowed out and be just trying to do the work of a parish. So, I think that's one of the, the core about what we're about, is that we have a heart for parish leaders because we continue to do that work. And so we are trying to, build some partnerships and relationships, because I think that's just the way forward for us to get the word out. I was on a call with somebody Tuesday, and this was a little bit the pain. They're like, compare, contrast, anyway, some other organizations, but you guys have like literal books, and you have things that are of substance. And again, not that other people don't, but like we do, Bill Baird's been using the continuum of care, from A to Z, soup to nuts. We just, again, we have so much to offer, and I know we do. It's just trying to get the word out there to continue to understand. Even this person I was talking to was talking about the book we have coming out next year and trying to get it out some more. And she's like, yeah, I've heard of some of these books I didn't even know was from you guys. I didn't know, Wow. So, I'm just trying to be better at, that again, that's up to us. That's the frustration. It's not out there more in the world. Again, if you're a parish leader, you might be frustrated that something in your parish isn't where you want it to be, that small groups aren't where you want to be, the ministry is not where you want it to be, or weekend attendance or finance, whatever it is. And I think that is the nature of leadership. If leadership is moving people from here to there, moving our organizations forward, so we're never there yet, right? And so again, going back to what we said a little bit earlier, continued, again, hopefully change that frustration into a holy discontent, and then giving it over to God, giving those frustrations over to God, and God, trusting God and doing all we can, but then trusting God in His timing will bring the fruit. For sure. And then turning around and realizing, oh, God brought me through that, and I learned so much along the way. Yes. Perfect. Well, Tom, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming back. I'm glad we got to talk this month. So I'll see you next month, I guess. All right. Talk to you next month, Melissa. All right. To all of our listeners, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.